This country is in a revolution. They're sick and tired of what they're getting, and I happen to be lucky enough to be part of it.
It has been said that when in the course of human events, an oppression so revolts its subject that it becomes necessary to alter or abolish the means of that tyranny. Is it that time when our Bill of Rights is defiled every day? When our adventures abroad threaten our security at home? When the Federal Reserve keeps our free nation enslaved by debt? When the people of the world tremble under the thumb of corporate imperialism? And now, our nation is drifting dangerously from freedom to fascism. So I have to ask, is it time?
And now, from the luxurious albino raccoon recording studios located in the Midwestern heart of America, it's the last voice for Liberty Network. And here's your host, The Mouth.
Greetings and salutations to all my fellow patriots. It is time. The last voice for Liberty Network on the air again today. They cannot stop it. You cannot fight it. You must have it. Liberty every day, folks. I, of course, am your host, The Mouth, laughing and scratching at you one more time, bringing the truth that you ain't gonna get anywhere else, babies. That's right. We got some good show running up here for you today. A lot of information this time to get out there. All my conservative Republican friends out there, I've got some news for you. Your House Republicans have done just exactly what I figured they were going to do and caved on all tax increases, and they punted the entitlement reform over to the Democrats again. So in other words, that means nothing's going to get done. When President Obama put forth his first offer on the fiscal cliff, House Speaker John Boehner said that, you can't be serious. And to be quite honest, I could say the same thing to House Speaker Boehner after his counteroffer yesterday. Because let me tell you something, folks. This really pisses me off. In a letter signed by House Republican leadership, including the Majority Leader Eric Cantor and Budget Committee Chairman Paul Ryan, Boehner offered to raise taxes by $800 billion and cut spending by $1.4 trillion. Now, with no substantive reforms to any retirement programs that are actually driving the U.S. spending and debt. See, instead of looking at the root of the problem and taking care of that, no. We're just going to kick it over and let you guys fuck it up. Because none of them know what they're doing, folks. These are all some of the most unqualified personages in the country that we have elected and put into these seats of power. Now, if they were actually respecting the Constitution and what it says and what it says about limiting federal government, then this power would not be an issue. They would not have the power. The power would still rest with the people as it should. Unfortunately, there are so many people in this country who seem to think that taking care of themselves and doing things right for themselves is too fucking difficult. Okay, I'm not talking about the people who are trying to do right for themselves and they're finding dead end after dead end, especially in this shitbox economy that's getting even worse and worse by the day. I went to look it up what the job market was doing online today myself, and there ain't shit, folks. There really isn't. Nothing that you can sustain a family on. I'll tell you that. You can get minimum wage jobs out the ass. Anything else is few and far between, folks, because companies aren't hiring. As a matter of fact, companies are getting rid of people. We did this a couple weeks ago, where I went over a big list. 100,000 people lost their jobs within 9 days of the election. 9 days. And that's just a small chunk, folks. This is not going to stop there. When they talk about spending cuts. Let me clue everybody into a little bit. I might have some new listeners. You never know, that don't understand. When government talks about spending cuts, it means they're going to not spend what they're planning to spend. They're not cutting anything they're already spending. Not at all. Not one bit. Spending cuts is what they're planning to spend. So we're not going to spend this other $1.4 trillion that we were going to, but what we're already taking in is, we're not cutting that. Hell no. This is our corporation. The government corporation. That's another thing. People who fight against corporations and think, oh, corporations are evil. Let me tell you a little something about your United States government there, ladies and gentlemen. Your United States government is a corporation. It was made a corporation. Oh, fuck, what was the year? 50-something, maybe? I'm not quite sure what the year was, but it's actually an incorporated corporation. Now, the director of the Rowe Institute for Economic Policy Studies and J.D. Foster of the Norman B. Tour Senior Fellow in the Economics of Fiscal Policy, they quickly responded that the Republican counteroffer, to the extent that it can be interpreted from the hazy details that were available, is utterly a dud. It's utterly unacceptable. It's bad policy and bad economics. You cannot be serious about raising taxes on people right now. Now, Democrats want you to raise taxes up on the people who are clearing above, $250,000. They want that to go up by, 10%? These are the people who own the companies that hire the middle class. Both parties, Republican and Democrat, have it's like they have the words middle class tattooed on their brain, because they repeat it a lot. We're not going to raise taxes on them. This isn't going to affect the middle class. We've got to save the middle class. The middle class is buried. If you fuck with people from the top who offer the jobs to the people in the middle class who actually work, guess what? These people are rich, man. They can pack up bags and say, I'm outie. I'm going to go spend the rest of my days in Costa Rica. Or some other non-extraditing country. And then where are you? Then where's your business? I guarantee you where your business is going to be. Under government control. Any new business. Once they collapse this dollar, any new business that comes out will be government controlled. It'll be a supremely fascist state. Folks, if you never, ever, ever in your entire lives read anything about World War II or the policies and economics leading up to World War II, especially in Germany, you should. Because when you do, you're going to realize it's happening right now. Boehner's letter to the president actually said that Republicans were not going to make their more serious proposal, which had already passed the House. He says, and I quote, if we were to take your administration's proposal at face value, then we would counter with the House-passed budget resolution. It assumes an overhaul of our tax code with revenue remaining at historically normal levels and proposes structural reforms to preserve and protect the nation's entitlement programs, ensuring that they're sustainable for the long term rather than continuing to grow out of control. He's right on those. They're using so much taxpayer-funded money and putting us so in debt, and they're spending on these entitlement programs, which are in dire need of reform. I mean, you can't say that they're not. But they said, we recognize it would be counterproductive to publicly or privately propose entitlement reforms that you and the leaders of your party are unwilling to support in the near term. In other words, Boehner's just given up. And there's a lot of Republican pundits out there, conservative pundits out there, that are thinking that this is the right thing to do. Give it up. Let them hang themselves. I say those actions in itself, Speaker Boehner, are treasonous. You gentlemen were elected to serve the best interests of the citizens of your states. How are you serving their best interests? By letting the Democrats destroy the country. Oh, they don't want to work with us on it. So what's the point? What do you mean, what's the point? 330 million citizens! That's the fucking point, jackass! Are you kidding? 200 plus years of freedom, liberty. The United States Constitution, which you swore to defend and protect, and by your letting them, by your giving up, by your failing to do what you were elected to do, you, sir, are treasonous. You, sir, are violating the Constitution. This is precisely the time for laying out these bold reforms, folks. Excuse me. Showing the nation that principles, vision, and policies that a lot of us conservatives share to dig ourselves out of this budget mess today and for the long term. Instead, they're pointing to a plan they said was suggested by Erskine Bowles, the co-chair of President Obama's Debt Commission and former Bill Clinton White House Chief of Staff. Now, it raises taxes, but not by raising tax rates. Instead, by lowering the amount or number of tax deductions or exemptions available. That's foolish. There literally is government has no right taxing the people. Taxation is theft. Flat out theft. If you don't pay this tax, you're going to jail. That's threatening. That's give me your money or I'm going to do something to you. I come up to you on the street and I say, hey, give me your money or I'm going to do something to you. You know what they do to me? They stick me in jail. The government does it and they go, oh, that's just fine. Wrong. The whole point of tax reform that America really needs are, as said by Fraser and Foster, were preferable in general to raising tax rates. This proposal largely dooms future efforts at tax reform based on the sound principle of broadening the tax base to lower the rates. Instead, this proposal would broaden the base, not to lower the rates, but to raise revenues. So much for improved economics. It's all about making the government more money. That's all it is. Essentially, it appears that the Republican leadership caved on raising taxes and first steps towards fundamental entitlement reforms that are desperately needed to keep Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid going. Now, to be sure, Boehner's letter is short on details, but as Fraser and Foster put it, beyond disappointing, the House Republican counteroffers appears at best to suggest incremental tweaks to these programs without real entitlement reforms and not just spending cuts. We're never going to fix the underlying problem. It's putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole, folks. You don't start where the problem is. You start where the problem is coming from, where it begins. What is the beginning of this problem? What originally caused this problem in the first place? Because our entitlement programs are in need of reform. There's things that need to be fixed in these. or they're just going to bleed dry. And the government's just going to keep going, hey, give us more money, give us more money, give us more money. That's all they ever do. Americans polled just after the election have a lot of these priorities more in order than the president and the Congress ever did. You know, just a few days after the election, Gallup asked the people to rank a list of 12 issues by importance for the president's second term. Now, restoring a strong economy and job market, number one. Entitlement reform, taking major steps to ensure the long-term stability of Social Security and Medicare, basically, was number two. Now, make major cuts in federal spending was number 6 on the list, while raising taxes on people making more than $250,000 a year was way down on the list priority at number 10. So the American people don't even think that you need to do this. The American people are knowing seem to be knowing what they be knowing, eh, white boy? Because raising taxes on the rich who run the corporations and run the companies, and you want to raise taxes on raise corporate taxes, close these loopholes, take more money from the businesses that will hire people, so they don't have money to hire people. It's time for these Republican leaders in Congress. And we've got maybe one or two. You got Justin Amash, who's actually kicked off a budget committee that was blocking this whole tax bullshit. He was on the House budget panel, and John Boehner removed him. Now, Justin Amash, if you do not know who he is from the Cascade Township. He was potentially for past votes. He's kicked off the House Budget Committee potentially for past votes against key pieces of legislation promoted by his party. Now, last month he won a second term in Congress and was among several Republican lawmakers shuffled to other committees for breaking with party leadership. Now, anonymous sources have claimed that Amash and others were removed from key committees because House leaders are hoping to put the fractious caucus in order. But a spokesman for Amash, Will Adams, declined to comment on this roll call report because his office had yet to receive Amash's official assignments. Adams said he had expected the news by the close of business on Monday, December 3rd, but as of 4:30, he hadn't heard anything yet, and we haven't got back with him. Now, roll call's report said Amash and others, including Representative David Schweikert, a Republican out of Arizona, and Tim Huelskamp of Kansas, were rebellious right-wingers during the last Congress. Huelskamp and Amash, for instance, both voted against the budget proposed by Budget Chairman Paul Ryan of Wisconsin in committee and on the floor because it did not cut spending fast enough. They also voted against the current continuing resolution that is funding the government through the end of March. Now, Schweikert was quoted by Politico saying that he was booted for voting against the party leadership. Spokesman for John Boehner told Roll Call and Politico a number of factors go into committee assignments. Now, Amash, explains each of his votes on Facebook, earned the nickname Mr. No during his time in the House because he often voted against presented legislation, taking up the mantle from one great Ron Paul. We need more guys in there that are going to vote no on these tax hikes and spend and lackluster or wannabe spending cuts. Just if you go and cut $1, let's not say, oh, I didn't spend this $1. That don't mean shit. Come on. We're not going to spend this $1. Give me a break, you people. Now, he told, Justin Amash told the New York Times in April 2011 he did not believe his votes against legislation approved by party leadership had annoyed his superiors. He's doing his part in voting the way he's supposed to, the way he believes, the way his constituents are wanted. He goes, I don't think they've been annoyed by the votes. He goes, I think they respect my approach and respect theirs as well. This is what he believes. This is what a majority of us libertarian-leaning conservatives feel. Is that people are all inherently good. Everyone has the ability to be good. It's those who choose not to, or those who are so inoculated in their own lives and successes that they think what they're doing is good, when in reality, it just hurts everyone else. It's a double-edged sword. You've got to be careful when you get into situations like this, because you cannot dig yourself out all that easy. And the Republican Party has done so. They shot themselves in the foot, folks. And John Boehner's just proven it to everyone else. Well, we give up. They're not going to agree with us or work with us on any of these cuts that we want. They haven't for 4 years. You know, on one hand, I can't blame the guy because they haven't fucking wanted to work for the Democrat and the administration. Obama has not wanted to work with the Republicans at all. They want total control. That's why 2 hours after he was elected, they were talking about Obama's third term. All the liberal pundits. A possible third term? Ooh. We got to take a quick commercial break here, folks. We'll be right back on the last voice for Liberty Network.
What the fuck are you bitches babbling about?
Get the fuck off of my obstacle! Now! Get your ass inside and listen to the last voice for Liberty Network!
Let me take a couple of questions. Ben Feller.
Thank you, Mr. President. You've been telling the American people all along that you oppose extending the tax cuts for the wealthier Americans.
Yeah.
You've said that again today. But what you never said was that you oppose the tax cuts, but you'd be willing to go ahead and extend them for a couple years if the politics of the moment demanded. So what I'm wondering is, when you take a stand like you had, why should the American people believe that you're going to stick with it? Why should the American people believe that you're not going to flip-flop?
Hold on a second, Ben. This isn't the politics of the moment. This has to do with what can we get done right now.
What?
And this isn't the politics of the moment. This has to do with what can we get done right now.
What?
This isn't the politics of the moment. This has to do with what can we get done right now.
I hear the drums echoing tonight. She hears only whispers of some quiet conversation. She's coming in 12:30 flight. The moonlit winds reflect the stars that guide me toward salvation. I stopped an old man along the way, hoping to find some old forgotten words or ancient melody. He turned to me as if to say, hurry boy, it's waiting there for you. It's gonna take a lot to drag me away from you. There's nothing that I couldn't and no more I could ever do. I've blessed the rains down in Africa. It's gonna take some time to do the things we never had. The wild dogs cry out in the night as they grow restless, longing for some solitary company. I know that I must do what's right, sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti. I seek to cure what's deep inside. Frightened of this thing that I've become. It's gonna take a lot to drag me away from you. There's nothing that 100 men or more could ever do. I'll bless the rains down in Africa. It's gonna take some time to do the things we never had. Hurry, boy, she's waiting there for you. It's gonna take a lot to drag me away from you. There's nothing that 100 men or more could ever do. I've blessed the rains down in Africa. I've blessed the rains down in Africa. Bless the rains down in Africa. Bless the rains down in Africa. It's gonna take some time to do the things we never had.
Yeah, here we are. Welcome back to the last Voice for Liberty Network. I'm your host, The Mouth. Coming here to you on the 5th day of December, folks, 2012. We're getting close to the end of this year. My gosh, has it flown by so fast, so long, so quick. You know, it's just, things are going by so quick, and we've got to be vigilant in our efforts to continue to bring the truth to the rest of the people. We have to be vigilant in our efforts to see through the lines and the lies that our government and media is given to us. We have to be vigilant in investigating and deciphering exactly where their policies are going to lead us. We, at this show, are going to pat ourselves on the back today, because we told you about this right before the election, when Mitt Romney was even talking about going to fund we're going to help the Syrian rebels during the debates and things like this, and they're both, we're helping the Syrian rebels. We've got to help these Syrian rebels. They're fighting for their lives there. We're going to help fund them. We're going to get them some aid. We're going to help them. A shocking report by McClatchy Newspaper's David Enders reveals that the militants, now on the front lines of the rebel uprising in Syria, supported by the Obama administration and other Western powers, are actually Al-Qaeda terrorists who killed U.S. troops in Iraq and openly espoused their desire to fight the U.S. after they toppled Bashar al-Assad. Now, the Obama administration signed off on over $200 million in aid to the FSA rebels, and the CIA helped Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Qatar funnel heavy arms to the rebel groups in the region. But when they're done with Assad, they want to fight the U.S. Who in the hell is this guy working for? Barack Obama. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Because it's not us, folks. They're funding our enemy openly. And our enemy is openly telling us this. Hey, as soon as they're doing that, we're coming to get you. Are they stockpiling in Syria? Is this whole Syrian rebels trying to topple their Bashar al-Assad, their leader, their dictator? Is that all a big facade for us to continue to funnel heavy arms over there to get them ready for war, to come and attack us? Is this the possibility? Now, we told you flat out, when he was dealing with the Muslim Brotherhood and funneling all these monies to these rebels, they were these terrorists that we're supposed to be finding. And now we're arming them. And they're still going flat out. As soon as we're done here, we're coming to fucking get you. We're going to fight the U.S. I told you when it happened before, when we first broke the story about them funneling all this money to the Muslim Brotherhood and the attacks in Libya, what those were about, the uprising in Egypt, what that was about, the Syrian rebels, what this is about. It's flat out. I'm almost 95% sure, folks. You call me crazy all you want. I don't give two shits. But I'm almost 95% sure there is no uprising in Syria. They're stockpiling for the war. And we're paying for it. All us taxpayers, anyone out there who pays taxes to this federal government is paying to stock up our enemy to come fight us. We are. I pay taxes. I'm just guilty as everybody else. We're guilty by association, folks, and we need to stop this. We need to take the association and those who are guilty and criminally charge them. Every single one of them. You voted for this? You voted to pass these unconstitutional laws? You voted to fund our enemies? That's treason, sir. The whole administration has become nothing but treasonous. Treasonous to the American way of life, the way we've always been, the way our country was founded. Treasonous to our Constitution. Treasonous to us, the American people, the American taxpayers, by using our money to fund our enemy. And I, for one, am not going to stand for it, folks. That's why I'm on this damn show every day. That's why we're putting all this stuff together. We cannot stand for this anymore. Think of it this way, folks. You're a 17-year-old kid growing up in a poor family. You've got to go to work after you go to school to help make ends meet in that family. To help get bills paid. So you work and work and work and go to school, and then you come home and you give your parent the money for bills and everything else. It's just like if they went out and gave your worst enemy, the biggest bully in school, your paycheck to take your girlfriend to the dance. That's basically what it's like. Would you like that? Because this is what we're doing. We're giving money to the government to protect us from these people, and they're giving the money to them to stockpile them with arms. Hello. When is everyone else going to wake up about this crap? The federal government is not winning on every battlefront. When they're trying to violate the Constitution, there are still judges in the Supreme, not only in the Supreme Courts of the states, but in the federal Supreme Court, that are operating by the constraints of the Constitution. Now, the federal government suffered a major defeat yesterday at the hands of the Supreme Court in the case of Arkansas Game and Fish Commission versus the United States. And their unanimous decision, which is a rarity out of the Supreme Court, the justices rejected the federal government's sweeping claim that a series of recurring floods induced by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers did not qualify as taking a property under the Fifth Amendment because the flooding was only temporary in duration. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg wrote for the court, because government-induced flooding can constitute a taking of property, and because a taking need not be permanent to be compensable, our precedent indicates that government-induced flooding of limited duration may be compensable. Compensable, yeah. No decision of this court authorizes a blanket temporary flooding exception to our takings clause jurisprudence, and we declined to create such an exception in this case. Now, the court also rejected the government's assertion that the Army Corps of Engineers needed to be free from the constraints of the takings clause in order to effectively do its job. Now, time and again, Justice Ginsburg went on, excuse me, in takings clause cases, the court has heard the prophecy that recognizing a just compensation claim would unduly impede the government's ability to act in the public interest. She said, "We have rejected this argument when deployed to urge blanket exemptions from the Fifth Amendment's instructions." As for the surprising claim made during oral arguments by Deputy Solicitor General Edwin Needler, who told justices that no property owner whose land lay below a government dam could ever bring suit again under the takings clause in response to a government-induced flood. Now, the court observed that because this novel argument was not aired in the courts below the Supreme Court, and was barely hinted at in the brief that the government filed in the Supreme Court, she said, "We express no opinion on the proposed upstream-downstream distinction." Now, I'm a little surprised myself that the Supreme Court didn't reject Needler's bogus upstream-downstream distinction outright, given that most of the justices seemed so dismayed by it during oral argument. Justice Anthony Kennedy likened Needler's position to the old moral refuge of German rocket scientists. If anybody doesn't remember that, they said, "I make the rockets go up. Where they come down is not my concern." Or perhaps the justices opted for a unanimous ruling against the government rather than a divided opinion where the majority delivered an even more forceful denunciation. The bottom line, folks, the federal government went to court in hopes of restricting property rights and got fucked. They got told to go screw themselves, and that's a good thing. We always have good news. Try to bring some good news to everybody. Not everything's doom and gloom. The good news is that there are folks of us. There's more than just me out there, folks. You got to get out, get on your social networking sites, get in touch with others who believe the same way that you do. Network, socialize, unite. If we don't, everything that I'm talking about will totally come to pass. There's no distinction between what I'm saying and what they're actually doing. It's the truth. They take these laws away from us, and the restrictions that the Constitution puts on the government, and we're just slaves, folks. Just slaves. Nothing different. A little bit better living conditions than what it was back in the Civil War times. When you work and have to fork over all of your earnings, or a majority of your earnings, to a government, you are a slave. That's all you are. I can't explain it any differently, folks. Back in the day, the slaves, some slaves got their own, like Thomas Jefferson's slaves. They're one of the more famous ones. They got their own living quarters, food, shelter, very well taken care of. Some of the slaves wouldn't even get to sleep in the barn because their sick white devil slave master didn't think that a colored man should be able to get to his barn unless he was working. He damn sure didn't need to sleep because they called them animals. They called them savages. What do you think that this government is talking about us, the American people, right now. They think we're stupid. They openly say that. We don't think that the American people have the wherewithal and the understanding of economic policy to really be able to put forth a good opinion about this. The American people are too stupid to understand economic policy. When did this happen? Could it be while we were out being the economic policy? The American people are the drive. You don't have the American people. You don't have consumers. You don't have economic policy. You don't have a damn economy. Quit trying to fucking shit on one hand and then wipe somebody else with it. Good God! If you don't see these open tactics of division, this is your wake-up call. This is where I'm pointing this out to you. Listen to this show every day and learn. So the next time you've got some moron, you can go, wait a minute, pal. That's not what's happening. I had an argument with my damn son yesterday. About history teachers at school. My son is a straight A student, honor roll child, 3-sport athlete, brilliant young man, brilliant, I have to say. But he's been indoctrinated. And now I have to work on this. Because I want my son to receive that piece of paper that will get him the good job. Because that's what it's all about. That's the only reason that a parent wants their child to go to school is because they'll get a piece of paper that says they can get a better job. That's the only point for going to school. But he proceeded to go on the rampage and tell me that I was crazy and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, this started over the whole Mayan calendar thing, okay? I saw reports a couple weeks ago that what people have been thinking for years has been the Mayan calendar has actually been a copy of the Aztec calendar. The Mayan calendar, they found, actually goes on. It doesn't end, it goes on. So I said that to the kids. The kids went, of course, to go to school and asked the history teacher. No, it's Mayans. He goes, it says it in the book, Dad. I was like, so nothing different could have happened since the time they published that book? I was like, no new discoveries could have been made? I was like, you sit there talking about this book like it's actual fact. I was like, it's not. So did you ever stop to think that what if the history they're teaching isn't even close to the real history at all? What if it isn't? We already know they lie to us about a lot of things. I guarantee. I think I want to going to propose a challenge to any parents out there who have children about high school, junior high school age. Challenge to ask your kids to bring on that history book. See if they mention anything about, let's see, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. What supposedly got the United States into Vietnam. Because I'll tell you this, when I was in high school, they didn't mention a damn thing about it. I had to do a whole report on Vietnam. I looked through encyclopedias, I looked through history books, I looked through everything. And not one word about the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Not one. It wasn't until 2003 that I even heard the words Gulf of Tonkin. And then come to find out, and that was the same time when they announced that the Gulf of Tonkin incident, where they were supposedly shooting at our boats, never fucking happened. It was a lie. They lied to get us involved in Vietnam War, and tens of thousands of American men died over a lie. You think that they are going to lie about something that fucking big? They're not going to lie about nothing else? You can believe them about everything else? Folks, if I hadn't grown already enough myself to see the lie, I might be just like you. But I've seen it. In action. Live. Through experience and trials and tribulations of my life. I haven't always been a libertarian. I haven't always been this conspiracy theorist everyone calls me. I was raised by two Democratic parents. I voted Republican, except for the first time I voted independent. But I voted Republican ever since, up until this year, when I officially switched to the Libertarian Party. Because I realized the Republican Party is impotent and dead. Especially when they pull what they did with Ron Paul. We need to get together, folks, in this country and stand up to this oppression. I'm going to do one more little story here, folks, and this is just a personal vendetta type thing for me. I'll address this to Mr. Bob Costas. Mr. Anti-Gun, Mr. Oh, if that dude wouldn't have had a gun, then him and his old lady would still be alive. Well, I got a little something for you here, Mr. Costas. It's been a ridiculous couple days, given the way members of big sports media such as Mr. Costas and the Kansas City Star's rotund racist writer Jason Whitlock have somehow thought it appropriate to exploit tragedy to propagandize for a so-called gun control agenda after Javon Belcher, the black Kansas City Chiefs former linebacker and longtime violent menace, including fellow white students when he was as young as 12. Yeah, he grew up a bully. So that's what happens when you die. The stories about everything that you did in your life come out. Now, this past Saturday, he murdered his girlfriend, Cassandra Perkins, before he committed suicide himself. And meanwhile, while Bob Costas is so worried about telling everybody to take their guns away because guns kill people, in Mayor Bloomberg's big gulp banning city of New York, a person of interest was taken into custody earlier today following the death of a man of Korean origin, 58-year-old Ki-Suk Han of Queens, who was pushed onto a subway tracks yesterday by a black man at the 49th Street downtown NQR station near Times Square. So one must ask, is it time for common sense subway control? Now, to borrow from the way Mr. Costas thought it was appropriate to spend time propagandizing for gun control during halftime, we here at the Last Voice of Liberty cannot help but think or bring it up in the coming days. The not yet identified suspect's actions and its possible connection to a hate crime. Because there are two different races, so it's got to be a hate crime. There was a white guy that pushed a black guy to be a hate crime. Now these will be analyzed. Will they be analyzed? Who knows? But here's what I believe. If New York City didn't possess a subway, Ki-Suk Han would be alive today. And that's going to wrap it up here. We'll see you tomorrow here on The Last Voice for Liberty Network.
When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. The utmost manifestation of love and devotion to America is today, as it always has been, resistance of tyranny.